Hi, this is Varun here from ETBrandEquity. There are many facets that go into building a distinctive brand identity. There are intangible and tangible facets of the brand that encompass the consumer experience. But to create a distinctive brand recall, often we ignore a element of brand building, which is the sonic identity of a brand. Today, I'm joined by MVS Murthy,
Hi.
the Chief Marketing Officer of Federal Bank, and Rajeev Raja,
Hi.
the co-founder of Brand Musiq. Hi.
Hi.
We're here to talk about an interesting facet of brand identity. Brand identity is all the intangible and tangible facets of a brand that create a distinctive memory in the consumer consciousness. And one oft ignored facet of the brand identity is the sonic identity. And Federal Bank has started an initiative in 2020, which is kind of crescendoed to something that they are going to planning for World Music Day. And would love to know what was the journey in 2020 that prompted you to create a sonic identity. MBS.
So, when I just jogged down my memory lane and I think of 2020, one of the reasons why we thought of creating a sonic identity was that there was enough talent in the bank. And one of the things that we take pride in is that we have a very, very low attrition. So, which means that a lot of our colleagues are like friends who have grown up together over a period of time. And when you live a life of that kind together, there is a lot of your talent that gets discovered. And we discovered that there are a lot of folks who are prolific musicians, or they have an inclination to music, or they want to go out and do something around music. And it was a common thread that bound us together. And I think that is when we had the stirrings of creating something called as a Federal Band, which was a band which is formed in Federal Bank. And this team used to go regularly perform at a lot of our functions and events and award ceremonies. And every time they performed, they were received very, very well. And it apparently so happened that Rajeev and Ajit came and spoke to us about creating a sonic identity. So it was a serendipitous moment where talent met opportunity, so to say, and then the rest is history now.
So, when this conversation happened regarding the sonic identity, Rajeev, what did you tell MVS? What is a sonic identity? Did he know what it all was about? How would it represent the brand across touch points? What was the journey there, through conversations?
I think the whole area of sonic branding, as you said, has just been recent. It's been coming to the fore, really. And we had to actually explain, of course, MVS knew what a sonic identity was, being from the marketing space, but a lot of brands still need to understand that a sonic identity is more than a jingle.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
That it actually represents the essence of the brand at the deepest sensorial level.
Right.
And through our process, we explained how we would go about it in a very systematic, scientific, yet music is an art. How do we bring the art also into it?
Right.
And as MVS was saying, I think they resonated with the whole team, resonated with that thought. And that's where the sonic identity, the basic sound of the brand with what we call MOGO or musical logo was built. And this was around 4 years ago.
Yes, that's right.
Musical logo. So, that's a very interesting conception. A logo is a visual, immediately comes to mind.
Right.
But a musical logo, MVS, when you wanted to give Rajeev a brief, because any great jingle, any great piece of advertising begins with that brief.
Yeah.
What was the idea that you wanted Rajeev to capture through the MOGO, and what was your brief to him?
I want to answer this in two parts. Part one is that before the advent of digital, as we know, there was only enough or little media. There was print, and there were 2 television channels, and there was a bit of radio which was happening.
Right.
So the moment you created jingle, which is a word which Rajeev used, you had an opportunity to amplify it across 3 or 4 touch points. But today, with the advent of digital, the number of touch points are far too many. I mean, at a point in time, a consumer has got his mobile phone, he has got his laptop, he has got a television screen which is running in front of him. He must be having a radio also which is happening, and he must be listening to somebody else. So there are so many touch points which are there. So it becomes very difficult for you to have just one jingle playing across all of those other points. Now, and there is also limitation of budgets. That's point one. Point two is that if I were to create a sonic identity, then I may not be dependent on a particular media or a medium, and I can use it wherever I am at a place of work, and I'll come to how we went out and used it. So this was part one. The second part was that as a company, we believe, and we continue to believe very strongly, that we are human at the fore, human at the core, and digital to the fore. That being the case, we wanted to see how can we humanize this entire sonic identity at different points in time. What is it that we can go and create so that every time this tune comes or this twang of a guitar comes, they should think, oh, this is a Federal Bank transaction which is happening. So we humanized a sonic identity across multiple touch points of our transactions. So it was not just the MOGO that we created, but also we tried to humanize this, saying that if cash comes out, how will it sound like? If you're at a bank, how will it sound like? And we created a whole ambience, for the want of a better word, a lifeless branch suddenly came alive, and people were able to connect. Now what happens is that, as I told you earlier, I am not dependent on a particular medium, but every time a consumer transacts at an ATM or calls one of us for some work or service thing that he wants to go over and do, or is at a call center, he's constantly hearing the sonic identity. And that is how we have created a distinct brand memory in the minds of a consumer, saying, if this is this, then it is Federal Bank. And it happens over a period of time.
That's very interesting, a great brief captured in the pithy line, digital at the fore, human at the core.
Yeah.
This was also a time where digitization was coming in waves and droves,
Yes.
right? So Rajeev, you had this brief with you, and you also had the knowledge that they wanted the entire ecosystem, the banking ecosystem, to have the sonic identity and show it to the customer across touch points and make that experience within the bank branch or ATM or any other touch point more human.
Right.
What did you do to bring this musical logo alive? What are the kind of elements that went into it? What are the creative insights that went into it? How was the whole journey?
Yeah, I think it's been a fascinating journey. Essentially, the brief was very interesting because at the one end, you're talking of being human, and at the other end, you're talking of being digital, which normally, they don't meet.
Yes.
Right? So there's innovation, which comes from the whole digital aspect. And there's also caring, which comes from the human aspect, right? So how do we essentially musically and sonically express these two contrasting elements of, digitization on the one hand and a heart, a bank with a heart on the other hand? So when we go about the whole process, we essentially go through what we call a brand discovery.
Yes.
Where we try and understand the brand as if it were a human being. So the brand came through as a very creative brand, but at the same time a very caring brand. So creative, caring. These are two other things. With also being in the banking business, a sense of reassurance, a sense of trust, all of that had to come through. But also from innovation came this sense of wonder. Wow, how did they do that? How are they doing this? So all these elements is what we brief our music directors. And then they come up with different themes that could possibly express all of this, not forgetting the essence of digital at the fore and human at the core. So we had to have a melody that anybody could sing along. All the employees could sing along. And as we go on in our conversation, we'll show you how they sang along also. So that really was the journey that
I want to add to what Rajeev was just saying. One of the other things which, now in hindsight, when I say this, he also will appreciate, which happened in this interaction, was that unlike being a cold brief from a client saying that I want sonic identity, Rajeev and team were exposed to a lot of my colleagues. Okay. And when they met people, at the end of the day, a great campaign is about understanding people, whether it is consumers or in this case, employees for whom you're creating the whole identity. Yeah. When they must have met people, and I'm sort of second guessing this, they would have got a sense of how these people are culturally. And when you get a sense like that, and when you come from the craft of advertising, you understand that I can't have a hyperbole of a sonic identity, which will not gel well with their personalities. There is, you say it best when you say nothing at all, right? So therefore, it's very important for him to have that exposure. And I think that really helped him create it much faster. Otherwise, something like this, the last 4 years, it would have been in the cans and we would have been rejecting so many more notes, as a matter of fact. But because he got a first-hand feel of the people, he got a pulse of the culture of the place. And once you know that, you know that this is the square in which you need to bat, or this is the square in which you need to go out and hit your aces, or do a serve and volley. That really has been the tipping point, and I would want to believe and argue that it's been the most significant distinctive feature of the brief, which was not written, which was not spoken, but was understood by the nuance around.
It was felt.
Yeah,
I think that's, in all creation, it goes beyond words. If it is felt, if it is experienced, which is very similar to what we hope our sonic identity will do. It's not about words. It's about how people, when they hear it, how they feel about the brand. Right, so that's really the...
And there was no skew. It is not that the senior management of the bank is coming and they are going... There were people across the hierarchy. There were men, there were women, there were boys, there were parents. Everybody was sitting and jamming into it. So it's really the true essence of how raw, unplugged, but fantastic music can be created.
After this entire process, you had the MOGO in hand.
Yeah.
You had to integrate it across touch points. What was that journey like? And this is something consumers hear, they say, okay, this is great. Maybe they notice it, maybe they don't notice it. What was the feedback from the consumers or from your customers when they heard this MOGO and, that prompted you to take this a crescendo higher?
So very early in my life, and a lot of us must have also heard, I'm going to take the names of two of the greatest people involved in the music fraternity in Bollywood. And no music is revered as much as when you say R.D. Burman and Gulzar. So there is an album by Gulzar, which is Gulzar Remembers Pancham. And that line stayed with me forever. कि धुन बनाने से गाने नहीं बन जाते, उन्हें पाल पोस कर बड़ा करना पड़ता है, उनकी परवरिश करनी पड़ती है. तो एक sonic identity बनाने से, it is not going to be the summum bonum of everything. You need to keep thinking of how will I reuse it, how will I give it to the next generation, how will I get more and more people involved in singing this.
Beautiful.
Different ways of it. Then when that happens, and it says dun 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 dun, then you suddenly start remembering, oh, this is this sonic identity. Then I can change it in the rag, I can go into a different way, I can use it on a guitar, I can do it on a drum.
Correct.
It just grows on itself. So that is the most important thing. And then we said, okay, let's look around. Where all can we use it in the air conditioner? No, maybe we can't use it in the air conditioner. Oh, but notes can be counted. There can be a sonic identity with the notes, and there are coins. So let's go out and use this. Okay, then we said, oh, there is a transaction which can happen in a UPI. Can we use this? Okay, we can go out and do this. So we started looking at points where it can pivot to a much higher level. Having said so, is the journey over? No, every day we're going to discover new and new things. Our regulator is going to be actively involved. They're going to create newer and newer guidelines for banking. Right. And we'll have to find an opportunity for music or sonic identity to sit itself there. But the moot point is that one swallow doesn't make a summer and one note doesn't create an epic hit. So we need to keep working on it all the time.
So true, so true. It takes two hands to clap.
Yeah.
Creating a sonic identity is one thing, but getting it out there, being committed. And I think the Federal Bank has been fantastic with MVS and his team, how they've built on it. So many versions we've created, and gives us so much joy when, we get this great feedback.
No, in the last 4 years, we have 14 versions of the MOGO.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of it has its inception with my colleagues coming and saying, let's make one for Onam, let's make one for Diwali, let's make one for Holi. So that's how a successful brand, and I'm just elevating this conversation, is when it becomes a part of people's lives. Not about what I say it as a positioning statement.
Correct.
Because I have made it doesn't make any sense. But because people live the brand every day, when they wear a jacket or when they wear a pair of shoes or when they listen to a music of a particular kind. And that really is what has happened with the sonic identity.
Fantastic journey of how, it built up. As you said, the core insight for the sonic identity came that there was a depth of talent within Federal Bank and a love for music that was in the DNA of the brand, right? World Music Day, there are many such days, World Social Media Day, World Pet Day, they're coming. But World Music Day is a day that celebrates, amateur skill in the performing arts, such as music, right? And you realize that this is something where you can build your brand over this particular day. When did you come to know that, okay, World Music Day is something that you can probably leverage because you have a sonic identity, because you've built so many, IPs around it? What made you think that World Music Day was something that you wanted to?
So it is here where the client should be unabashed and give credit to the agency.
Okay.
Because in the millie of things that we did, हमको ये नहीं चमका कि World Music Day आ रहा है करके. We would have done a simple post and said Happy World Music Day or something of that sort. But then I think these guys, because they knew us very well, they picked up this thought saying that guys, this World Music Day coming up. Do you want to do something innovative and nice? We said okay, we want to do. Then they pinned us saying that how about an anthem? We said wow, and being somebody who's running the brand, I said, has anybody else done it before? We don't think anybody has done an anthem at a corporate level, which is done by employees together. We must have hired people, professional musicians, to do it. And then we said, okay, if that's the case, can we get a whole troupe of people from your organization to come and make the anthem for us?
Okay.
And that is how it happened. Some of the most boring departments that we know, credit, risk, treasury, they've all participated in creating the anthem for us, and that is what makes it really, really exciting. And also, again, to their credit, they have got together a bunch of people whom they have never met before, but the only common language is music. And to get strangers to come into a room, to cut across hierarchy, to cut across geography, to cut across gender, to cut across proficiency of music, is in itself a remarkable feat. We are not thinking that it's going to be the top of the charts, when it comes to Spotify or some other kind of program. But the fact that it will give us so much of joy, seeing that we created this together in 2024 and have launched the Federal Bank anthem on the World Music Day, is going to be a very epiphanic kind of a feeling.
Great. That's the interesting thing. You thought, let's get our employees, let's get the talent to build this corporate anthem.
Yeah.
I think that is definitely something that I have not heard of before. Now, it's a large organization, tens of thousands of people. How did you kind of break this internally? We are going to do an anthem. How did you select, the candidates for the auditions? And finally, how many people participated in the creation of the anthem?
So we went through a lot of CV. It's not a biodata, but CV is collaboration and volunteering. Okay. We got a lot of teams to collaborate, and we sent out a mail requesting them to volunteer for something that we are creating like this. And we had a lot of entries which had come in, and eventually we wanted a stack of about 14-15 people coming together. That's what is there on the
video
the video also. Yeah. But having said so, the sheer amount of enthusiasm of people, and we also discovered that there are more and more musicians.
Right.
So as I was saying earlier, it's just like a revolution which is catching its own steam. I'm sure by the time the anthem is released, somebody will come and say, can we have an anthem created by our team, or can we have the Indian national anthem being done by our team in a different kind of a style? It can be just about tapping this table, for all we know. But that can be the sonic identity of the Indian national anthem on the 15th of August. But that's the whole opportunity for people when they jam like this.
Fantastic.
I think for us, we actually got a short list of 50 possible musicians.
Right. That is after we had filtered.
After they had filtered.
Right.
Yeah, and then now we put some really sort of rigorous benchmarks.
Correct.
And we finally arrived at about 8 to 10 musicians who actually came here, including singers, a tabla player, a piano player, guitarist, etc. So it was a fantastic experience. And I think the whole thing of designing a sonic identity is remember the initial sonic identity didn't have words.
Yeah.
It's only an instrumental piece.
Absolutely.
But we designed it in such a way that it can be adapted to various applications and needs of the brand. So now we actually got lyrics written for that melody. Now that melody has suddenly come to life, and the MOGO is also built in beautifully into that.
Right.
Actually, for me, it's a classic way of a kid's growing up. The good part is that there is a very strong, there is a MOGO which is there's an identity which is getting created on it. And then on top of that, you're making words sit. If we would have started the other way, then we would have tried to force fit something and tried to make it like an anthem or something. But here you're allowed the tune to blossom.
Right.
And then string words to it. Now anything can keep sitting on it, provided it sits in this kind of a framework or genre, for the want of a better word.
Right.
Wonderful.
So, like you said, unlike a MOGO, anthem has a lot more components to it. There are vocalists, there are lyrics, there are different various instruments, right? What was the theme that you were trying to evoke through the anthem, and how did it all come together? I think Federal Bank is a national entity. How did you bring that pluralism of India's cultural landscape into the anthem, and how was the entire creative process?
I think the rishta, that is really the core thinking of the entire thing. It's all about relationships, whether it's between the employees, whether it's between the employees and the customers, or with their partners, with their creative partners. So that was the whole idea, and we briefed the lyricist also. We sent him the melody, basically, briefed the lyricist saying it should be, very inclusive kind of words around this sonic theme. And we also put in, different languages right? When you hear the piece of music, you'll hear how we built in different languages there.
Okay.
And all in all, I mean, when you hear it, I wouldn't blame you if you thought it was sung by professionals.
No, also, I think they had a great pivot, because the tagline of the brand is "Rishta aap se hai, sirf aap se nahi."
Okay.
And being a service brand, and this line could be belonging to any of the service industries. Okay, it can be an airline, it can be a hospitality company, it is a bank for now.
Yeah.
But you need to live that emotion every day. When I say "Rishta aap se hai, sirf aap se nahi," sirf is an important word. अगर मैं नहीं बोलता तो line होती "रिश्ता आपसे है आपसे नहीं," which means I don't have technology, I don't appreciate the nuances of technology.
Right.
Then there is no sonic identity in the first place, because I don't. It's a blind spot for me. But because I understand that great service is best of both worlds, the whole thing has come in. And now in everything that we go out and do, Rishta is a operating word. Am I elevating my first interaction to the next level, to the next meeting? Am I ensuring that the series of meetings that I have had so far in my interaction with the customer, am I ensuring that this is going to give me the next line of business because of the trust that the customer places with me? Am I elevating what I'll see as industry leadership to the next level by creating or bringing in a different way of banking or interacting with people, and not taking everybody to be a transaction?
Right.
Are there chinks in the armor? Of course there are there. Will there be scratches? Of course there are going to be there. But overall, it's a beautiful serenade which is happening around the word Rishta. And it keeps coming back. And not only with them, but everything that we go out and do, it's anchored around the word Rishta. We take a lot of pride in our NPS scores also, because all the scores that we get is because of delivery ultimately. Otherwise, a bank is a bank is a bank. You can go and get withdraw money anywhere that you want to go and do.
Right.
But the reason why people keep coming back to you is that there is something nice about it. And I don't want to particularly spend time putting a finger on what's nice, so long as you enjoy the niceness of what you're getting.
I think just to add, where banking has come today, vis-a-vis where it was during the days of our father.
Yeah.
Our fathers used to go to the local branch, sit with the branch manager, chat.
Yes.
Right. Today, that who do you meet in a bank? You only go to the ATM.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So therefore, this transactional nature can really be supplemented by a very beautiful sonic identity, which keeps growing and causes greater experiences and touches the heart.
Absolutely. I think this transactional nature that you've spoken about is also amplified with the digital through the screens that we constantly interact with. It's a facet that gets amplified automatically.
Yeah.
So, highlighting that Rishta aspect of it.
Rishta aap se hai, sirf aap se nahi.
Sirf aap se nahi.
Like you said, you should not remove the technology part from it entirely.
Yeah.
It can get misconstrued. The entire thing came together very well. You've brought the human story behind the entire initiative out. But at the end of the day, you're a marketeer. You work on data, hard numbers. You have to answer to a lot of people with the data. How was the initiative translating to create impact for the brand, create a distinctive memory of the brand in the consumer, and the entire outcome of it?
A brand is many things put together. You just imagine any of the movie stars that you like. It is not he or she in his or her voice. It's the way they conduct themselves, it's the way they dress up, it's the kind of movies that they go and do, it's the kind of stare that they give on the camera. All of it, matters. So when you look at what you just asked me, the sonic identity is one part of the brand.
Yeah.
Okay. If I don't have all the other parts going, this will not get noticed.
Correct.
Okay. But if I don't do this well, it will start looking, jarring at the rest of the other elements also, because it doesn't come out as a clean picture. So since you asked me of a number, over the last 4 years, about 24 crore MOGOs have been downloaded. So that's a huge number to go on and talk to.
Okay.
But can I view this number in isolation? No. A lot of things have happened. Today, as we speak, our stock is at its highest ever. So that is all a culmination of eventually the Rishta. Sonic identity reminds you of Federal Bank, and the stock return that you go out and give you makes you endearing to our brand, and you want to go out and invest more. So it's not in isolation, but I think all of it has to come together.
That's a fantastic answer, because we've always been asked, what is the ROI of sonic identity? And we say that it's not just ROI, but it's ROE. Not just return of investment, but a return of emotion.
Emotions and return of equity. It helps you go out and
Equity,
build a lot of that
engagement.
equity. Yeah.
No, anecdotally speaking, when I think about the strong memory associations of ads that I've seen, jingles come to mind so much because you keep hearing them again and again.
Yeah.
And by integrating your MOGO across your touch points, I'm sure every time a customer calls a branch, swipes a card, goes through an ATM, they hear your
Yes.
identity.
Yes.
And then that memory structure gets built.
Yes.
So it's absolutely an interesting space to be in, how you created this thing. But I think, would you then say that to sustain this, it would have to be a year-on-year endeavor for the brand to build
So
on
I
this?
would think that a great tune or a great song is not something that you decide, saying that, okay, as you go through life and as you keep walking around, suddenly you stumble upon something. It can be that I'm out somewhere on a holiday or Rajeev is out on a holiday and suddenly he hears a woodpecker going tap, 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 tap.
Yeah.
And that can trigger saying that, can we create a tap, tap MOGO for Federal Bank? Then you come back and you say, let's expand this. Can we create a MOGO which captures the sounds of all the birds that we will see? And you know what, MVS? Let's launch it at the Hornbill Festival in the Northeast whenever it happens. It's a great vibe. And that's how it'll get created. So one is that you cannot be obsessed saying that what is going to be my next hit. Second thing is, like a good actor, keep reading, keep looking at all the possible scripts that you come to. You don't need to sign up on everything that comes, but something will resonate saying that my last hit was this and this is what I want to go out and do, and I think it'll work. And there is a lot of collaboration. We may not meet every day,
Absolutely.
but we experience life every day. And then suddenly we'll come back and say, I heard the steam engine. Can we create a MOGO around the steam engine? It's coming back into vogue. We went to Mathiran and so all of those things will happen. So you need to keep living the brand in many more ways than just buying it and consuming it.
Fantastic. I think that's a great place to stop this conversation.
Lovely. Awesome.
Yeah, living the brand, not just buying it and consuming it. I think that's a great place to stop this conversation. Thank you so much,
Thank you as much.
MVS
Thank
and
you.
Rajeev, and for sharing these insights. And
So I just want to add 2 words.
please.
Let's MOGO.
Yes, MOGO. That's right. Let's MOGO. Thank you. Lovely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.